Again, good morning and welcome to officially the first week of this course. In this course, if you followed on the syllabus outline, we will be talking about controlling spending while you're in school. So that's nothing but creating a budget. So we're going to talk about how you can develop and maintain your own personal budget that works for you in budgeting 101. So that's what we'll be talking about this week. So the first thing to ask, what is a budget? Before you can develop or come up with your budget that fits your lifestyle, you first have to determine and define what is a budget. So in this session, will be our learning objectives for this session will be identifying and developing your financial goals. We'll examine how financial values come into play. We'll discuss basic budgeting terminology and principles. We also will explore tools to develop your personal budget, and we'll talk about challenges and barriers to setting up a budget. And then we'll wrap up and discuss ways for you to track your financial health and progress, in which that will be how you will do your assignment for the week. So, trigger warnings when creating a budget. Money management can stir up what we call stuff within us. And that stuff can be anger, guilt, frustration, sense of hopelessness, anxiety, fear, and avoidance. So, money management. So, that means if you sometimes when you don't have enough or you're trying to figure out how you're going to pay for things, this is when the key term stuff will arise within us, and these are triggers for sometimes how we spend our money, because sometimes if you're angry, some people tend to spend when they're angry, some people tend not to. So these are cues or sensors that trigger things within us when it deals with managing our money. So why do we budget? But first off, we need to determine what is a budget. And basically, in layman's term, a budget is basically a way to manage your finances. Simple and to the point. It's just a way for you to manage all of your finances. So a budget for you will definitely cover how much you make and then how much you are spending out in everything. So that's the key in a nutshell what a budget is. So since we know now what a budget is, the next question we need to ask, why do we budget? Budgets are a necessity to take control of our personal spending, saving, and debt. Budget just helps you manage and keep track of all of the money that you're spending and how much money you have coming in and how much you are saving for a future date or future endeavors. Living beyond your means is a dangerous practice because that means you're trying to live beyond what you're bringing in. So if you're trying to live beyond your means, that means you really don't have the finances to cover that lifestyle that you're trying to live. So you're going to always be trying to break even to maintain. So living beyond your means is a dangerous practice. You always want to live within your means. Never try to live beyond it because it's going to be a more strain on you in the end. Many individuals do not realize that they are overspending until they are deeply in debt. That is the purpose of a budget. A budget helps you manage what you are spending because if you just go out and spend, you could easily be in debt and you don't even realize it. So a budget is a necessity so you don't overspend because that's the key thing with most college students and then we get in your early 20s and 30s is overspending, especially when you start making a nice salary, you could easily splurge and overspend on getting things that you've always wanted. So always avoid overspending. Credit cards are easy access to funds, and they make it easier to buy things, but always remember credit cards can also lead to overspending. They're easy to get and you can just charge it and pay for it later. But if you're just constantly charging and not keeping track of the charges that you are making and the finance charges, we will get into further on in the semester talking about credit cards and finance charge. You can easily overspend. Credit cards are good, but they are only as good as you make them. So they can be as good as you want or they can be as bad as you want. You are in control of how you use your credit cards. The absence of a budget is one of the greatest contributors to stress about money matters. It takes you maybe 10 minutes to do a budget. That 10 minutes can save you nights and days of sleep, not non-sleeping, because if you have a budget, you do not have to stress about how am I going to pay this, where I'm going to move this money to pay from this. A budget is essential. I encourage you to always have a budget. And even if you don't want to write the budget down on a sheet of paper, have it in your phone. Keep a mental note of what your budget is. That is the best practice. While we're talking about doing a budget, I think it's always best. I do a budget every month. So I encourage students to list all the bills you have to pay. List everything you know you're going to pay either weekly or monthly. List how much you have coming in, how much your checks are going to be from any source of income that you have. Make sure all your bills are paid first. Then whatever is left is that's when you can start dividing up stuff. And so you would know, okay, for this week, I have this amount. For this month, this is how much I have left. But a budget is essential for you not to be stressed about money problems. So the best thing to do is to start from scratch. Whether you have a budget that is giving you challenges or you have never created one, wipe the slate clean. Start brand new and fresh. Empower yourself to become an expert of your personal finances. No one knows your personal finances like you. Only you can say what your finance is and what your financial situation is. No one else can determine that for you. No two budgets are alike. My budget is different from yours and yours is different from mine. So empower yourself to be an expert on your personal finances because no one can do it for you. Next thing we want to look at financial decision making. Whether we are conscious or not of our values do determine how we use our money. So the values that you have on life, you may not think, but they do play a direct impact on how you spend your money. So if you value some things higher, if you have a more high-end taste, you will value the more high-end items, which means you will spend more on high-end items as compared to lower-end items. They probably two items can do the same exact thing, but because your values are associated with more higher-end items, you will automatically flock to the higher-end items, which are more. So your values and your core principles do determine how you use your money and where you spend your money. Any financial goals you create are an extension of your values. They represent you because at the end of the day, your financial goals, your personal goals, all of that they're tied into one. You set the groundwork for how all of this will be done. So your financial goals they are an extension of your personal values. Once I have you doing assignments, I want you all to start thinking about that now. Start thinking about your financial goals and then see how they represent or how they coincide with your current values. And as you get older, those values and those goals will change. So the goals you have today might not be the same financial goals you have a year down the road. So they are subject to change. Financial hardships often come when we stop paying attention to the connection between our values and our money. So if you just disconnect both of those things, it's telling you that's when we start experiencing financial hardship. I mean, because like I said earlier, your values and your money coincide. So, and that goes back to the slide we just looked at, do not live beyond your means. Because that's when we start seeing when financial problems start arising. And especially in your early 20s and going into your late 30s, because you're establishing yourself in the career world, you're making more money than you made when you were working. I'm going to say in high school and in college, you actually have a salary coming in, so your money is improving. And if you get advanced degrees, you will start seeing your salary improving. Usually, once your salary starts going up, you start spending a little different. So always make sure you stay abreast of your spending and making sure you always are on top of that. Always take a moment and write down 5 of the values that you hold to be central to your identity. I want you all to do that. Just write it down anywhere or put it in your phone. I want you all to write down 5 values that you hold to be central to your identity, because I'm going to ask you for that a little later on in the coming week. So write down 5 values that you hold central to your identity. And we're going to come back to that a little later. So when you're creating a budget, where do you begin? Your financial snapshot your net worth statement. So that's how much you bringing in. That's the best way to start with the budget. How much are you bringing in if you're getting paid bi-weekly? How much you bringing in bi-weekly if you're getting paid weekly, monthly? How much are you bringing in? What is the actual amount that is being deposited into your account? That's where you begin. That's how you know, okay, I can build my budget around this amount. So they tell you that your personal net worth is the difference between all of your assets, things you own, and liabilities are the debts that you owe. So you know that check that you have coming in your account, that's an asset because you own that. Your liabilities are any bills that you have to pay out of that money. So let's say if you have, let's just say $2,000 in your account, that is your personal net worth. That's your asset. And let's say out of that $2,000, for the month you have $1,000 in bills and everything. That will be your liabilities. So your assets and your liabilities. You always want to make sure you keep a close track on your assets and your liabilities. Your net worth statement is a complete list of all the items and their current value. So that's just anything that you own. Anything that you physically own that you are not making payments on, you are the clear cut owner to. So that's any cash in the bank. That's if you own a car. Anything that you physically own, you are not paying on it is a physical net worth and it's an asset to you. Anything that you are currently still paying on is a liability. So having a concrete knowledge and not a guesstimate of your net worth allows for the best starting point for the budgeting process. So we don't want to do a guess like, oh, I'm guessing I'm having this amount of bills paid. I have to pay this month. You need to know exactly how much in liabilities you will be spending out on a particular month. Assets. So anything that is considered an asset or cash, anything in your bank accounts, your money markets, if you have CDs, cash on hand, or if you have any investment portfolios. With some students getting to that a little later, they start investing into the stock market, usually in their late 20s and 30s. And this is more if we find finance majors start looking into it, but anyone can get money, you can get into the stock market. But these are what are considered, they're considered assets. So like I said, savings bonds, stock options, investments, all of those are considered assets. Retirement funds, 401k, IRAs, and small business plans, those are all will be, they're not immediate assets, excuse me, but they will be assets for you in the future. Real estate, personal property. So that's when any house, land, or rental property, personal property, so vehicles, any if you have boats or anything, those are what they consider personal property assets, and any household goods. So that's anything that's within the home, excuse me, and money owed to you. So that if anyone owes you money, that's an asset that'll be coming into you once you collect on the money that is owed to you. If it's still an outstanding debt, it's not an asset to you at the current moment. And then another asset is a life insurance, only with cash value, not term policy. So that's if your life insurance has a cash value. And this semester, I think I'm going to focus on life insurance policy because it is an asset that you all need to know about. So if you have one with a cash value, it is an asset. Liabilities. So anything that you, loans, mortgage, equity loans, vehicle loans, student loans, credit card balances, if you owe taxes to the government, and any unpaid bills, child support, all of those are considered liabilities that would hurt your assets. So why are financial goals important? Goals are like the wheels on your car. They keep you moving in the direction you want to go, and you won't get very far without them. Working towards goals brings a sense of accomplishment and diminishes stress. And financial stewardship is a theological value. So financial goals are important just as your personal goals are. So just how we encourage you all to have personal goals, you need to have financial goals because you do not want to be the same place in your life in your 20s and your financial goals are the same thing as in your 50s. You must grow. So it is important to have goals so you can constantly move forward because you do not want to move backwards and you do not want to stay stagnant. You always want to look to be moving forward and finding new things to benefit and improve you as an individual. So just like we have long-term, short-term goals, You have short-term financial goals. So short-term financial goals are those are goals that you want to achieve in the near future. So you start small. So for example, while you're in college, you could say that you don't want to accrue any more interest on your student loan. You want to start paying the interest on your student loan. If you have a car that you're paying off, you want to have that paid off before graduation. Or you want to save up an emergency fund for while you're in school. So in case something happens, you do have an emergency fund set up. So you pick, this is just for your personal self. Pick 2 to 3 and write these goals down. Just write them down for yourself. I want you all to start keeping track, if you're not already doing it, keeping track of your goals. So come up with 2 to 3 financial short-term goals. So we just 2 to 3 short financial goals. Developing your budget. So this is how we're getting into structuring the budget. So once you know how much assets you have and how much, what your financial goals are, you're ready to create your budget. So your budget equals your tool for obtaining those goals that you just wrote down. So that's how you're going to achieve those goals, is by maintaining a strict budget. So the term budget can bring negative to imagery to the mind, like you penny pinch or you're trying to save, but a budget is an asset to have. And a budget is just like we said, a spending plan. It's nothing more. It's no fancy definition. A budget is just a spending plan. And it helps you control your spending while making your saving effortless. Because even though you're spending, you always want to save. So signs of a good budget: it should be realistic, flexible. It should show progress towards your goals. It should be simple. It should reflect your true financial values. And I want to go back and look at one thing. Your budget should be simple enough that you can manage it. So a budget does not have to be this concrete, this math equation, something just simple and to the point. So when you look at signs of a good budget, I want you to focus on everything that is underlined. It needs to be realistic, it needs to be flexible, it needs to have progression, it needs to be simple, and it needs to have financial value. So those are signs of a good budget. Customizing your budget. List all of your sources of income that you have coming in. Like I stated earlier, anything that you have, any income that you have coming in, list and add all of your sources of income for 1 month. So that's from wages, everything. You want to list all of your income that you have coming in. Now you want to list all of your expenses that you have to pay out for that particular month. So how I do mine, I list my income at the top, and then I start listing all my bills that I have to pay with the due date, so I will know. So you list all of the money that's going to be coming out from your assets. Then once you do all that, it's just super simple. Once you get the total of all of your liabilities that are coming out your account, all you then go back and subtract you do your assets minus your liabilities. Whatever you have left over, that is your current asset that you will have. I'm just going to say we're looking at doing it for a month. That's how much you will have left over for the month. It's simple and easy to the point. It's nothing fancy. It's nothing major. Dry and cut and paste. That's exactly how you do it. So again, when you're setting your budget figures, you want to make sure that you have a realistic spending for each category. And when I say category, if that means once all of your bills are paid and you have like an entertainment category, let's just say for the guys, if you know maintenance and upkeep for both male and female, so that's haircuts, females that's getting your hair fixed, all that, you need to budget all of that. Some people budget it into their account, and then some people use that as a miscellaneous, which means after all their bills are paid, then they start adding in the frills that they want to do their budget. So it's all up to you how you want to do it. But you want to make sure you track all of your spending. Everything should be accounted for that you will be spending. You also want to monitor your progress. When I say that, you want to make sure you're keeping up with, okay, this is how much I'm spending. So if we know at the end of the month we got $1,000 left off after everything is paid, so when you start spending off that $1,000, you want to make sure that you're keeping track of, okay, I'm spending $10 here, I'm spending 20, I'm spending 50 here. keep a progress of how much money you are spending each month. And then you want to also start putting money aside. So you want to celebrate the small victory. So let's say 1 month you didn't hardly save anything, but then the next month, let's say you save an extra $10. That's something to be proud about because you did better this month than you did last month. So as we wrap up and we discuss, I want to basically creating a budget, like I said, is cut dry, it's pace and simple. But the budget helps you maintain your financial strength and your peace of mind. It lets you know and it helps you keep track of all the bills that you have coming out. Because once you start working and you start paying student loan, credit card debt, you will find that your bills will start to add up once you start trying to live a life and then once you get a family. So you always want to maintain a budget to make sure that you stay on top of everything that you're doing. Because without keeping a budget, you're going to find